All right, hold on to your hat and glasses. As promised, I am going to rewatch all of the Legend of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime. I just finished Season 1, Episode 1, the introduction. I'm going to do each one again. I already watched the entire series once. I'm not going to watch it all again. This is my honest review as a guy who watches cartoons and knows some stuff about D&D. So let's just set the rules here. 1, I don't know anything about Critical Role, okay? My experience with Critical Role has been like maybe 20 minutes total. There's a couple things I'm aware of just because they've become memes. Travis, Grog and the Deck of Many Things, Jester and the Cupcake, but, I don't know the show. Do I have a personal bias against the show? Sometimes, yes. Not as much as I used to. Do I have a personal bias against Critical Role fans? Yeah, but you got to remember my personal experience with Critical Role fans has been pretty negative, so your mileage may vary. I know a lot of people enjoy it and get a lot of pleasure from it, and so whatever. So I'm not watching this as a guy who has any idea about what's going on in the world of Critical Role. I'm watching this as a guy who, has watched a lot of animation, a lot of cartoons, a lot of stuff, and as a D&D fan. But I'm also watching it as if I have no knowledge whatsoever about what's going on. Because for every 5 people that are watching it that are CR fans, and for every 5 people that are watching it are D&D fans, there's 25 people who are watching it who have no idea what's going on. So from that, I'm comparing it to their most previous animated cartoon, Invincible, which I went into as a person who had no idea what was going on in the world of Invincible. I had a general knowledge from what I picked up at comic book stores over the years. As a comic book fan and a fan of, Justice League cartoons and Spider-Man cartoons and the MCU and the DCU, I have general idea. So that's my comparison. I'm also comparing it to Record of Lodoss War, which is probably the closest facsimile to it, even though, it's 20 years old. So that said, the first episode reads a lot like a first episode, especially if I'm comparing it to Invincible and if I'm comparing it to Record of Lodoss War. It introduces you to a lot of characters with a lot of action and tries to grab you really quick. You don't really know who these people are. You don't really know what's going on. But as with most first episodes of most episodic television shows, it's just trying to hook you into the world really quick by just falling into as quick possible, easily recognizable things. So here's, bam, this is a guy. I don't know what he is, but he's got a knife. This is a guy. I don't know who he is, but he's got a bow. This is a guy. I don't know who he is, but he's got a gun. This is a girl. She's casting things out of her hands. This is another guy. He's big and strong. There's a bear. I love the bear. And then there's this short guy who's really annoying and sort of ruins the separation because he's just spouting out all these anachronisms, and using references to modern day stuff. So, yeah, as a first episode, if I'm comparing it to, say, Invincible, where a lot happened without really telling you what was going on, Record of Lodoss War, where a lot happens without really telling you what's going on, Justice League Unlimited, where a lot happens without really telling you what's going on, a lot of other cartoons, a lot of other episodic shows, this is a standard opening first episode. Introduce the characters, introduce the world, sort of give you a general idea of the tone, and just try and hook you as quick as you can. So on that, yeah. So now let's go down the list. Voice acting. It's Critical Role fan. So we know that they're very good at what they do. So my expectation for their voice acting is very high because I know this is what they're famous for and this is what they do. So that said, previously I'd given it a B+ because, it didn't really capture me. It just sounds like what I expected it to sound. You got a Scottish dwarf. These accents are like, what? You've got an accent. I don't know why you have an accent, but you have an accent. And then there's Grog, who's just, whether intentionally or unintentionally, steals almost every scene he's in. I know Grog's supposed to be a meme, but that meme just becomes so endearing and just says some of the best lines and really sort of adds the, that level of empathy to the show. Percy, the voice is perfect, but again, it just sort of sounds very trite. I know the voice work improves in the second and the third. All the voices are just kind of Keyleth and Pike. Okay, I get it. She's not sure of herself. And then we have Scanlan. The voice is, not quite what I would expect for a gnome. It just sort of just sounds like a guy talking. And then again, there's the anachronisms. There's the references and, the hand, the Bigby's hand or Scanlan's hand making devil signs and other things that are, memes and probably things that they did during the game. But the references are like, this is fantasy world. These things don't exist. This guy has a gun. This is fantasy world. Where did he get a gun? I suppose that'll explain later. So explaining things to somebody who has no idea what's going on, not a lot of that going on, but then that's pretty much usual. There's a lot of stuff going on in the first episode of Invincible, and they don't explain it. There's a lot of stuff going on in the first episode of Record of Lodoss War. They don't explain it. Most episodic TV, does this. Firefly, who are these people? What's going on? Why are they doing this? I don't know. Buffy the Vampire, who is this person? Why is this going on? I don't know. Any Korean drama or Korean soap opera, who is this person? What's going on? I don't know. It'll be explained later. So voice acting still B+, because I expected more. Animation A+, action A+, establishing the world B+, establishing the characters, pretty much what I expected. So, nothing special there. So just a flat B. I know that I'm going to find out more. Unintentional tropes, like everybody has a tragic backstory. And, if there's one major thing that's a problem with episode 1, it's the anachronisms and the language. At first, the language feels honest. I know a lot of people are complaining about the shit jokes and the fart jokes and the vomit jokes and the sex, but let's face it, that's a typical D&D game. I mean, that's every D&D game I've ever been in. For every deep, dramatic Lord of the Rings, epic Shakespearean moment, there's a moment of, middle fingers and fart jokes and talking about boobs or dick, because that's just what a group of people get together, do. Whether it's intentional or not unintentional, we goof off, we laugh, we make silly voices, we make jokes. So at first it felt genuine. It felt like here is a group of friends who have been playing D&D together for a long time, and we're getting a peek into their world. And yes, because they're a group of friends and they've done this, and it's a silly game of dice and paper at the end of the day anyway. Sure, yeah, they're serious and they're playing their characters and they're acting out this scene in a bar, and we're getting a feel of the characters. And yes, there's a lot of inappropriate language and there's the sex scene and whatever, but that doesn't seem out of place at first. It just seems like this is a bunch of people playing D&D, having a good time, goofing off of each other, riffing off of each other, the standard banter, and okay, I'm fine with it. But then it goes on, and then it keeps going on, and then it keeps going on, and it keeps going on, and then you're just like, okay, now it just feels forced. Now it feels like you're just being edgy to be edgy. The same with the violence. At first it's like, well, yeah, the blood and the gore, I'm fine with that. It's, it's a fantasy world, it's dangerous, there's got swords and spells and bows and bears and beasts and undead, so I'm okay with the violence, I'm okay with the blood. And then later on you're like, well, now it just seems like they're doing it just to do it. I mean, it feels very sophomoric at times, and other times it feels right on. So the language and the blood, I'm going to give a B+, A-, because sometimes it just feels forced. Other times it feels very, very organic to the world. So the humor is very sophomoric. The humor is very much, these are guys. The characters I have problems with. Well, first, there's not enough of the bear. Really, come on, let's just face it. If they wanted to knock it out of the park and guarantee that multi-million-dollar success, they should have started with the bear. We should have seen Trinket. They should have done Trinket's honey heist. Grog is a walking meme. He's a stereotype of the big, dumb barbarian, but he does it in such a way that it feels very genuine, and there's a lot of hidden wisdom, and some of the best moments are Grog. The twins, Vax and Vexilia, I don't really, I know there's a lot going on with them that we don't get to find out in season 1. Throughout the whole season, I'm like, how is the rogue doing all this? Is he an arcane trickster? Is he like half rogue, half sorcerer? every episode he seems to have a new gadget in his belt. Oh, now his dagger's on fire. Oh, now his belt turns into a snake. Oh, now he can throw daggers and they reappear. Oh, who is this guy? Pike. Yeah, actually, Pike doesn't feel like a cleric. She feels like a sorcerer. I said that before because the way they're portraying the spells, where she's always like focusing and running out of energy. Same with Keyleth. Her spells don't feel like spells. They feel like she's a sorcerer and she's expending personal energy. And I'm not sure why they went with that other than to show you that spells run out. I guess that's as good as way of any to sort of make the magic system in D&D makes sense, except, sometimes they seem to never run out of spells. Other times they're like, oh, I'm too tired. I can't do it anymore. So, yeah, the magic system is kind of, I don't really understand it. As a D&D player, I'm like, okay, I know what spell that is. And then I'm also like, wait, what spell is that? And as just an anime person, I'm like, wait, I don't really understand the rules of magic in this world, because in this scene, you're perfectly fine. You're casting spells left and right. But 2 seconds later, you're exhausted. But then again, you have more spells later on. I guess you're taking a short rest in D&D terms, but I don't know. I think I know Keyleth gets her moments later on, and I know Pike gets her moments later on, and I understand the reason why we don't see so much as Pike is because Pike's player was not there as much. But still, there's still a lot of stuff that just remains unexplained throughout the thing, like the things on Keyleth's head. They fall off, but the very next scene, they're back on. Or that blue thing coming out of the ranger's head. What is that? Is that a treasure? Is that a feather? Is she a mutant? Are you going to explain this ever? I don't know. Then we come to Percy. Percy, who's this guy? How come he has a gun? How come he has glasses? This is a world of magic. Couldn't he have gotten the glasses fixed so whatever's wrong with his vision is fine? Why does he have a gun? I don't know. Are we going to explain this later on in the series? I sure hope so. How come the gun only runs out of bullets when it's important for it to run out of bullets, and other times he seems to have endless bullets? Well, it's a cartoon, so you don't need, cartoon logic. The straight-laced, super proper, I'm better than you, condescending engineer character is different. He stands out like a sore thumb because he's so different than everybody else. The way he looks, the way he dressed, the way he acts, the fact that he has a gun. He's the one that draws the most attention, but of course season 1 is mostly his story. So yeah, I guess that, but he just sort of stands out. And if you don't know what's going on, you're like, who is this guy? How come he's so different than everybody else? Not just in his mannerism, but just everything about him. So, and the anachronisms, of course, the glasses and the gun. The gun is, of course, explained later, but the glasses, why do you have glasses? Is it just an affectation, like the thing in Keyleth's hair and the thing in Vax's hair? Or does you really have nearsightedness? Is there really something in your eyes? And if there's really something in your eyes, you live in a world where magic can heal missing limbs. So, yeah. Why have glasses? Unless, of course, you're trying to prove that I don't use magic. I resolve everything with technology, which I guess could have been a thing that should have been pursued further instead of Percy's code of vengeance. But yeah. And then there's Scanlan. Now, I've already said I don't like Scanlan. People have argued with me, no, the horny bard has existed forever. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, really? Because I remember OG bards were way too hardcore to be, horny, bisexual, whatever Scanlan is. The jokes, the toilet humor, the making the giant hand into a finger. These are all things I could see the character doing because he's just sort of, playing that goofy, sex-happy, comedic relief bard. But then there's also the anachronisms, like how do you know what the devil's fingers is, and why are you singing heavy metal in a fantasy world and stuff like that. And how does your magic work? Scanlan. So he's still my least favorite character. The other characters slowly grow on me, and as I watch it, especially Grog grows on me a lot. Percy grows on me a lot. Keyleth Kaiser grows on me. I still don't really get Vax and the twins. They never really feel anything for them one way or the other throughout the series. Love the bear. Pike, again, Pike's question of faith, which later is, explained on and we play out through the later episodes. That sort of feels cool. And then there's sort of also like it doesn't really get enough explanation, but we'll go over that when we move on. Grog is perfect. And then there's Scanlan. Scanlan never grows on me. I tried to be unbiased, but it's an annoying character that's played to be annoying, and everything he does just sort of jars you out of what's going on from the very beginning to the very end. He does have his moments, but it's like he should have more moments where he's just like, I'm kick ass because I'm a bard and I can do everything you guys can do, just not as good. And bards kick ass. I know a lot of people hate bards and think they're joke characters, and it's like, dude, you're slightly good at everything. You get a +1 in every skill. You fight almost as good as a fighter. You spellcast almost as good as a spellcaster. You do thiefy stuff almost as good as a thief. You're fucking James Bond, not some horny whatever it is. So yeah, first episode, all of it's got good moments, it's got bad moments. I get what they're trying to do. It feels like a bunch of friends playing D&D and then trying to just be not safe for work for the sake of not being safe for work, and just using, at first it feels generous, it feels organic, and then it feels forced. All the characters seem to sort of work in the first episode except, Percy and Scanlan. And the magic doesn't make sense, but I suppose if I'm watching this for the first time, from a first-time viewer point of view with no knowledge, I'm like, okay, I guess this will be explained later on what's going on with these two and the girls and, whatever. Who's the main character? Is it Percy? Is it Grog? Is it the bear? Can the bear please make the bear the main character? So that's my general view of episode 1. I'm sure a lot of you are going to complain about my whatever, but this is my honest take on it watching a second time. Did I laugh? No. Did I feel like I needed to play D&D after watching it? No. Do I feel like I have a better understanding of Mercer's world? Not really. Do I feel I have a better understanding of the characters in Mercer's world? A little bit. But still, not as much. But so I give it a A-, all in all. Voice acting, it's what I expected. Animation, amazing. Story, okay. It's very stereotypical. It feels a lot like Record of Lodoss War. It's exactly what I expected it to be. There was no surprises. So yeah, there's my honest review of episode 1 of The Legend of Vox Machina. Good, bad, and the ugly. I know people are complaining about the language and the violence, and yeah, that would be the only thing that sort of takes away from it, other than some of the characters just kind of don't fit. But we know as the series goes on, Percy grows into the character that he's meant to be. Keyleth grows. Pike has her issues because her player wasn't there. Grog and the bear and the twins all get their moments. Scanlan gets his moments. But yeah, so there we go. I give it a good general A-. Anyways, that's what my review of episode 1 is. Tell me what you think. If you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, let me know. Blah, blah, blah. Yakety smackety. Critical Role. If you want to make 100 million subs, look at your video. All you got to do is say Critical Role. Critical Role. More bear. I just want to see the bear. None of the rest of you can go. Just have an episode all bear.